TG has created the TG Timeline spreadsheet as a tool to help you keep track of the terms and timeframes of the purchase contract. You'll find the latest version of the spreadsheet on our website at www.tghawaii.com. Click on Tools, TG Timeline Spreadsheet, and then click the link to download the latest version. That's also where you'll find this video on how to use the sheet, as well as the apps to use it on your tablet, iPad, or smartphone. Once you have the spreadsheet, all you need to generate a timeline is a fully accepted offer and you're ready to go. Open the TG Timeline spreadsheet and you will see two tabs on the bottom of the page: Entry Worksheet and Timeline. The Entry Worksheet is your working space for entering the information on contract contingencies from the purchase contract. The Timeline tab is where you'll view the timeline that's generated. You'll only need the Entry Worksheet when you're first generating your timeline, or if you want to enter in amendments, and after that, you'll be using the Timeline tab. Briefly, we will navigate through the various sections to learn about how some of the components function. To enter information into a field, click on that field and type or choose the drop-down to select an option. The Contract Reference column and Contingency column are based on the latest version of the Hawaii Association of Realtors Purchase Contract, and the items correspond to the section of the contract and the contingency descriptions. You will also see columns for the date per contract, days per contract, and clarification on days per contract. You can enter a date per contract or days per contract to begin generating your timeline. The dark shaded cells are for dates that are already specified in the contract per the Association of Realtors and shouldn't be changed. The light blue shaded cells are for optional fields, where you'll enter information only if it appears on the contract. Finally, the light orange fields are for the required fields that must be entered to generate a timeline. There are three methods for generating dates on the timeline. If the field is marked as optional on the TG Timeline spreadsheet and it's not specified on your purchase contract, you can leave the field blank and the TG Timeline spreadsheet will automatically calculate dates based on other available data, taking into account weekends and holidays. If your purchase contract specifies a date for a contingency, enter the date per the contract in the Date per Contract field. This automatically flows to the Due Date section on the Timeline tab. Note that if any dates fall on a holiday or weekend, the spreadsheet will flag that date so that you know to work on any necessary contract amendments. If the purchase contract specifies a number of days, then you can enter that number into the Days per Contract section of the sheet. Note that if you enter both a date and a days per contract, the Timeline tab will only use the date per contract. When entering information in the Days per Contract field, double-check the contract and select the appropriate clarification on days per contract period to ensure that you are selecting the correct date as the basis. These days are typically triggered by after acceptance, prior to closing, or after closing. Some due dates are contingent on another item being completed. You will need to enter the completed date for the dependency before the other due date shows up. We'll discuss that more when we reach the Timeline tab. For your convenience, we've pre-populated the most common clarifications, but you can change those however you would like, and the timeline will automatically adjust the dates. Just be sure you're matching what the contract says. Once you've completed the entry worksheet, it's time to view the generated timeline. To view the timeline, click on the tab labeled Timeline. You'll see that all of the dates have been filled in, but the columns are still sorted by where they appear on the contract. If you want to sort another way, you may click on any of the drop-down arrows to sort the columns according to your preferences. The most common way to sort is by due date. If an item is flagged, you will see a marker in the flag column. The most common flag is when a date in the contract falls on a weekend or holiday. This gives you a chance to see the issue immediately after generating your timeline. The timeline contains all of the information based on the fields you've entered. Review your due dates for accuracy. Again, you may click on any of the drop-down arrows in the timeline spreadsheet to sort by due date, sort by items that have flags, or to verify missing fields. For example, if you would like to see all of the places where the TG Timeline spreadsheet finds an issue, sort the due date column and look for anything beginning with a pound sign. You should see a friendly message explaining the issue and how to fix it. At this time, you may also use the drop-down boxes to filter out any rows that you don't want to show up on the timeline. For example, if you don't want L2, the termite inspection report, to show up, choose the contingency reference drop-down and uncheck L2. You can repeat this to make a nice printed copy of your timeline without any extra fields. Finally, when you are ready to print the timeline, go to File and select Print, or save the document directly to your desktop. We encourage you to use the TG Timeline spreadsheet to help ease the pain of generating a timeline and make it as quick and painless as possible. Hopefully, this will be a useful tool in keeping track of the terms and timeframes of the purchase contract. If you encounter any problems, have any question, or if you just want more support on how to use the TG Timeline spreadsheet, please contact your account manager, who will be happy to help you in any way possible to make sure you have a smooth and successful closing. Thank you for choosing Title Guarantee.